This is Ukraine Today, and we continue our discussion with the team leader of the Swedish-Ukrainian project for the support of decentralization in Ukraine, Mrs. Ieva Kalnina. Ms. Kalnina, a few days ago, the Ukrainian government announced that they will not be able to amend the constitution prior to the local elections, which are due in October. And I know that much hope has been placed that the elections, local elections, which will be happening in October, will take place with the new constitution. Are you upset with this scenario?
I think if you're willing to change something, you don't take any of the developments as upsetment or as something that would take you off the course. If you know what's your objective, you will be moving towards your objective using whatever mechanisms are available. And at the moment, there are already mechanisms available which actually can encourage and support the reforms, such as voluntary amalgamations are possible. Inter-municipal cooperation is possible. So those municipalities which do understand that they need to become stronger and which do have ideas on how to design their territory, how to develop their territory, they have the necessary tools.
But obviously they cannot become enough stronger without the changes to the constitution.
I would disagree with you, because I think with the amalgamation and the consequent financial autonomy or fiscal autonomy which the budget code is offering, there is already a lot of possibility that can be done already with the framework of existing systems.
But do they have enough powers to do this?
In my judgment, where there is a will, there is a way. There is, the main thing that the Constitution needs to fix is the actual association of the decision-making power with the executive power, and that rather extends to the Rayon level and to the oblast level, less to the level of the local governments, actually, and to the city level. So in this level, which requires the biggest change, there is already a freedom and possibility to move.
Well, there is some political resistance within Ukrainian parliament to push this reform forward. In your work, are you facing some resistance from any of the political parties, from any of the forces in Ukraine?
Not visibly, because we work with the people who actually are interested and willing to advance the reforms. So they always keep the end objective into their eyes.
Well, they all say that they are interested to advance the reforms, but then...
And that's where I want to come back, because as we know, the new parliament of the Ukraine was actually created after the Euromaidan with the perspective of Ukraine joining the European Union eventually. And I must say that decentralization is a package deal. You can't be pro-European and not supporting the decentralization. Because if you look at the key European values, which are in the founding grounds of the Europe, it's about democracy, it's about individual freedoms, it's about equality, respect to everyone, and everyone's participation in the processes. Without decentralization, you can't achieve it. So it's a package deal. It's quite interesting to see that your party can be pro-European, but then it can be hindering the decentralization. Somehow it doesn't go together in my mind.
Well, obviously they're not doing this openly, but using the legal maneuvering, using the technicalities of drafting the bills, of passing the bills, they are trying to slow down this process.
Let's leave it up to them. As I say, if there are real owners and real leaders on the local level, nothing will prevent them from doing things. And it will also, the people would also be looking for someone with the ideas. So for those who have ideas, that should not be the obstacle.
Putting aside the inability of the Ukrainian government to introduce the changes into the constitution prior to the October local elections, how would you assess the activities of the Ukrainian government to promote this reform, to go forward with this reform?
I think a lot is being done. Considering the limited amount of the people which are at the disposal of the government, you can see that all of the powers and forces are being mobilized for that. Also, all of the widest range of the donor assistance is being mobilized. And I must admit that within the time frame that we have now, since last spring when the concept was approved, until today, when more than half of the oblasts have approved the maps, it's an incredible progress. It's actually something which you can match it only with the developments in Denmark during the last reform, when there was a real political will to actually do the reform, where all things were happening very, very rapidly, because there was also a political agreement. I must say that it's amazing effort and amazing progress that the Ukraine has done. And it now, as I say, the next step is for the leaders who are on the local level, on the city level, to actually be bold, take initiative, become leaders, generate ideas, and start implementing those ideas for the local development. That way you will be creating strong local communities, and strong local communities will be creating strong Ukraine.
Ms. Kalnina, and going back to what has already been done, one of the experts said that with the changes to Ukrainian fiscal system, Ukraine has transformed to its fiscal system very similar to what Denmark and Sweden have right now. How much true is that?
It follows the principle in the European Charter of Local Government, which says that each of the municipalities should have an autonomy. It should have a certain territory in which it works. It also has autonomous income resources. And in that sense, indeed, the new budget code gives this opportunity to the municipalities of Ukraine. So a lot of the basic elements are already in place.
And again, putting aside the issue with the constitution, with changes to the constitution, what are the main steps which you see the Ukrainian government needs to take right now in order to implement and finalize this reform?
Generally, the next step indeed will deal a lot with working with the local level and with actually implementing the perspective plans on the oblast level. It is also important to start thinking about the development beyond elections. If the elections take place and there are the amalgamation agreements between the municipalities, it needs to be understood that everyone, old and new, will have a role to play, because the basic transition period, actually thinking about what will our territory look like, what kind of areas we will be working on, what kind of plan for each area we will be developing, how will rural and urban areas interact, is a work for all of them. It's a work for the representatives of the villages, it's a work for the people in cities. You also need to figure out on how you will be administering your territory, and in that you will need the expertise from all of these areas which are amalgamating. So I see there is a lot of kind of caution and lot of being afraid that people will lose jobs and people will lose influence and so on. But that is not true. You actually need to merge all the powers to be able to deliver something. So by merging the power, you can make the system more effective and efficient. And also by using the expertise that comes from the villages and using the expertise that comes from the city, you can better understand the interaction between the two.
Ms. Kalnina, my final question, and very brief, please. With the current pace of reforms, how long do you think Ukraine needs to complete it?
How long does it want to do it? If it wants to do it in 1 year, it will do it in 1 year. If it wants to do it longer, it will do it longer. It's all depends on the will. It can be done relatively quickly if there is an understanding that this is something that is needed for a long-term future of Ukraine. Because decentralization process is only laying a foundation. You need to understand that that's not the end of the process, that's only a beginning. It's actually not even a beginning, it's just a stage before the beginning. You start administration of your territory when you have a proper decision-making body and a proper administration to implement it and a proper financing. You are only laying the grounds for that. The actual fun and the work starts after that.
Well, looks like there is a lot of work ahead for Ukraine and for Ukrainians. Mrs. Kalnina, many thanks for coming to us and talking to us. This was Volodymyr Sulhu for Ukraine Today, together with the team leader of the Swedish-Ukrainian project for the support of decentralization in Ukraine, Mrs. Ieva Kalnina. Thank you for watching us.